So, I want to discuss Pokemon X and Y a little bit. Since I've gone through and played the game, I can say, overall, I really enjoyed it. It kind of reminds me of the time when I picked up my first copy of Pokemon Red and how excited I felt. I haven't played through any of the Pokemon games since Pokemon Platinum, mainly because after that point I picked up a flash card because I decided that these games were getting a little bit too expensive to keep buying. A good example of what I'm talking about now is the transition from 4th to 5th gen, from Pokemon Platinum and I guess Pokemon Heart Gold and Soul Silver to Pokemon Black and White. You realize they come out with Pokemon Platinum, and then X amount of months later they come out with Pokemon Heart Gold and Soul Silver. And it's nice because I personally believe that second gen was arguably the best in the series, but at the same time that's not so much of a good thing when a brand new generation is going to be coming out within 6 months. It's like you drop $40 here and then 6 months later you drop another $40. It's just too much money to be thrown around on games like that back to back, especially if you are a competitive battler like myself. It's like you were in 4th gen, and then now that everyone has pretty much moved on, you're forced to buy yet another game. I mean, if you like to collect the games, and fine, I'm not talking about you, but for me personally, it's just not my thing to keep dropping money on game after game after game. So I just thought that a flash cart was the most sound idea. Hell, if I want the game, I'll just download the ROM and try it out. Another plus side to it is that when it comes to the competitive battling scene, I don't have to necessarily EV train in the sense that, or at least for 4th and 5th gen, I didn't necessarily have to EV train in the sense that I could just generate my Pokemon using the known softwares for that. So but back to Pokemon X and Y, I think it was pretty good. Touching back on the EV training a little bit as far as Pokemon X and Y goes, I think that it's more realistic, as far as time consumption. Introduce the horde battles and stuff like that, and then you combine it with Pokerus and the power items. It just makes it so much faster. So with respect to EV training and stuff like that, I do think that X and Y is definitely the best. I do like the fact that they've finally given we the consumers the opportunity to personalize the in-game trainer. But I can say that I wish that they would have gone a little bit more in depth as it relates to like the different styles, skin complexions, hair texture, stuff like that. I mean, it's not a huge deal, but you have to realize that when you're this big of a company, you have consumers of all sorts. So you need to cater to all of your consumers. But like I said, it's not a huge deal, but it does say something about the company. And you can comment about it if you want, and we'll have a more in-depth discussion of my opinion on it. But overall, I can say that Pokemon X and Y is quite nice. The story, it kept me engaged. Like I said, I felt as though I was a young kid again playing Pokemon Red. I mean, it was just so exciting and fresh and new. And as far as the battles, I like the fact that we can actually store up to 100 battles, which that's gold for me, because I actually upload battles. I'm not forced to upload some video number to the GTS and all that shenanigans. Battle scenes have improved, although I do think that certain animations such as Fire Blast could have been done just a little bit better, because I don't know, Fire Blast to me has always been one of the more intense looking animations, but for this particular generation I don't think that it was at its best, but it does get the job done. It's quite nice. And I can say that of the TMs that I have seen in battle, Hyper Beam and Draco Meteor are probably the most intense. I mean, especially when you deliver the knockouts, it's just like destruction. One really interesting detail that I realized about X and Y is the individual cries of the Pokemon. I've noticed that they've changed since, the series has begun. And what made me realize this was when I evolved my Charmander to a Charizard, and I listened to its cry. I'm like, wait a minute, this doesn't sound like the Charizard I know. I mean, I can tell it's Charizard, but it's distorted in some kind of way. For the longest time, Charizard and Rhyhorn have had identical cries, and this is the first generation where their cries weren't necessarily identical. It seems as though most of the Pokemon have had modifications to their cries, and some for the better, some for the worse. And I think in this case Charizard, it was not necessarily an improvement, but you can still tell that they have some of the fundamental sounds that make it distinctly a Charizard cry. So I just thought that was really interesting. And I really think that X and Y was a success. Like, I really do. I can say that it earns between an 8 and 8.5 from me. Probably closer to 8. But in any case, it's a solid score. And I think that I've pretty much covered most of my opinions on X and Y. So if you have any comments on anything that I've mentioned so far, or anything that I might not have mentioned that you feel as though I should have, please leave a comment. But until then, peace.